So you become a realtor roughly
2010. I remember
2010.
that. Yeah.
And you were immediately like you started your own brokerage, or
no? So I started at Remax. I started my first year and I did 8 deals in my first year. I was at my job, my day job, and I got a phone call and I let it go to voicemail, and it was a person looking to buy a house. I called them and they said like, "Oh, we are called another realtor. Thanks." And I just like felt like I just lost $5,000. It just disappeared. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I quit my job that day. I went from 8 deals in my first year to 20 in the next year to 50 in the next year to 100 in the next year. So it was a doubling effect of just like, oh, I can do this. I can work really hard and get through this. So that was kind of,
awesome.
That was the realization. You just have to like, I don't know, let go of the safety vest and let go of everything. Just jump in.
Today I have the ultimate pleasure of chatting with Justin Myer, broker owner of LethbridgeRealEstate.com, and I'm just really excited to talk to you, man.
Thanks for having me over. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where does the story begin?
Oh man.
Like was real estate your main thing always?
No, like I've always had I've been working since I was like 14 years old. Yeah. So like I've always just had a job, and I went up to Calgary. Like I was born in Calgary, raised in Lethbridge, went back to Calgary. That's where I met my wife, and I was just doing like odd jobs. So I started off working at a restaurant. Then I started working at TELUS, and I worked at TELUS for years, and I did outbound calling. So like business sales and residential sales, and just like dialing for dollars, right?
That explains a lot about you.
Yeah, so that's why you can like, I always tell people, you just can't hurt my feelings. Like I've called people during the playoff run when Calgary was going deep in the playoffs, and I'm like, would you like a phone line? Like you wouldn't believe the things I've heard, like people yelling at me. You can't hurt my feelings, right? But my wife, so I was 20, she had turned 18, she got a job at TELUS, and I was her manager. So I like, that's how it's terrible. Hey, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go coach that person. And so then I left TELUS when they had the strike. I was in management, so I didn't have to leave or anything. Like I stayed, and we stayed and made good money. And then I was just like, I'd look down and see my aunt working down there, my uncle over there, and my girlfriend at the time down there. And I'm like, maybe this isn't the best. So I left, and I went and worked at a company called Terrago Networks. And I use this as a story all the time because everyone always asks, like, in real estate, when we get to it, why did you choose where you are? What about name recognition? Blah, blah, blah. And I always tell people the story, like, I worked at TELUS. You've all heard of TELUS. And I did business sales. And then I went to Terrago Networks, and none of you have heard of that. And I made more money doing business sales there, selling the exact same product. It was just telecommunications. But I was better. I was older. I was a better salesperson. I took my learning from what I learned at TELUS, and I made it go to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And that's pretty much what I've done my whole career is I think I'm pretty good at learning what my mistakes were and being like, well, scratch that, fix it, away we go.
Adjust.
Yeah, moving on, right? That's pretty much what it is. So that's pretty much what it is. So my wife and I, we ended up buying a house the day before the boom in Calgary, like the day before. Like we literally signed the contract, and the sales guy called her and was like, "Oh, you got to sign today."
What year is this?
I don't remember anymore. What was 2007, 2006, something like that. Whatever, like 06, 07. I don't, Of all the people you should ask dates to, it's not me. Like, if I could get my 4 children's birthdays right, that's a good day. And other than that, like, I don't know the month my dad was born. Like, I just don't know any of that stuff. It just doesn't sit with. I don't care about it, right? Or not in a mean way. It's just like, it's like it's in my calendar now. Like, I used to memorize phone numbers, but now I don't. And that's the same. So we bought. The sales guy called her and was like, "Oh, hey, you should." Buy the house today or it's going to go up in price. And I, as being in sales, I'm like, come on, he's lying. But anyway, she was right. Ugh. And so I went down there, we signed it, and it was a brand new build. It was in Copperfield in Calgary, which is just like kind of by Mackenzie Town. And 90 days later, it was built. It was like 89 days later. Like, it was so fast. They were throwing houses up, and it was worth $100,000 more right away. So we lived there for a bit, and then Calgary hit the 1 million person mark, and crime was up, and it was my job downtown was 30 minutes to work driving, which was normal, and then the boom hit, and it was an hour and a half. Like, if I wanted to get to work at 8:30, I used to leave at 8, and I would have to leave at 7, or I could leave at 8:30 and get there at 9. Like, so like, so your quality of life changed a bit in Calgary with the crime and the amount of people. Like, it was crazy influx of people, right? So we realized we couldn't take the equity in our house and buy anything in Calgary because the prices were still going up and up and up. So we sold and came back to Lethbridge. And so we were into kind of like flipping houses at the time, right? So we had kind of got that house up and running, made some good money on it, came down to Lethbridge. We were buying houses. We'd live in them. We'd renovate the basement, do a garage.
Oh, so you would actually occupy.
Yeah, we would buy brand new homes in Legacy Ridge. Actually, we bought, I think, 4 there. Oh. And we would live in the top. Then we would develop the basement, do landscaping, do the fence, do the garage, sell it. And then move to the next one, do the exact same. So we did that 4 times, and you just make pretty good money. Yeah. Like we got pretty good at it. And I was doing business sales as well. So I was doing a little bit of both, right? I'm like, and then I realized one day, I don't know what it was, but I was like, well, we're doing houses a lot. And I'm in sales, and I was like, why don't I just merge those 2 things and just go get my license? And
I can get the commission from selling this house.
And it wasn't a super smart thing. Like we were having our first kid. It was 2010, and so she was pregnant, and I was about to give up a really good paying job and just jump into a thing that's full commission. And it was like, well, and I've been in commissions my whole life, so it didn't hurt my feelings. Yeah. But the one job I was at was commission and salary, so I was like,
and you built,
and you have a good career, yeah. So I was like, I was making good money there, but you're like, it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was a hard thing to jump off and be like, well, I know you're pregnant, and I know it's our first kid, and and so yeah, but that was 15 or 14 years ago, and I just haven't looked back, kind of thing.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
So you were flipping houses like early on,
before
even real estate.
Yeah. That's when you could buy a house from like Avonlea on the north side for $238 for like a whole house, and then we'd put about 27 grand into it, so you're into it for like $265, and we sell it for $309. Yeah. And so you wouldn't. It's not like you're making millions. So you make 30, 40 grand. You're like, ooh, take it to the next house. You do it 4 times, you're like paying down your mortgage a lot, right? Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of a nice little bonus for us to do it. And
dude, that's super cool.
Yeah. So
that's really cool. So yeah, doing that for years and years. That's led to some financial stability for sure. At least from the home front.
Yeah, and we haven't given that up.
Did you ever have like a mistake one?
No, I've literally never lost money on a property.
I
know it's like, oh sure. I was like, nope. I'm a cautious person, but I told you I've learned from mistakes. So I've watched other people and I've talked to other people, and there's people like, oh, don't do that or don't do this, and I just, I try to buy the properties correctly, and I understand the numbers at the beginning and what they'll be at the end, and just be like, well, as long as I follow this, I'll be okay. So
that's the one thing I know.
Knock on wood, nothing's
changed. That's the one thing I know about. You're a stat guy.
Yeah, I do like the numbers.
You like to understand the numbers and know what.
It doesn't do you wrong if you've done the math ahead of time, because you can calculate in worst case scenario. So I always tell people, here's my 3 worst case scenarios on real estate properties, right? I'm going to buy a house for profit. And so let's just say I got a house. So option 1 is I buy it and I flip it. That's option 1. That's a decent option, right? You can make money on it. Let's say the market turns down, I can't flip it. Okay. Can I rent it and can I cash flow, or can I break even or whatever? That's option 2. And the third option, literally never had to do it yet, is can I live in it?
Right.
And that's the last option, because if things go sideways and you lose this house and you lose that house and you're just bleeding money, can you get to one of them where you can live, where you can afford the payments on it? And so that's been my formula for buying properties.
Pretty good formula.
Yeah, and you never want to get to the third option, because that means you're like going through a divorce, you're going through foreclosures, like terrible things are happening. But I have a place to live.
A home.
Yeah, my kids could go here and live, right? So, and the funny thing is about if you take that third one into consideration, the first 2 you do correctly, because you're like, I make the house a good house. Yeah. I'm not going to make it so my kids live in this and it's kind of hiding stuff. Or you got to do it by the book, make it correct, and make it a good place to live.
You're making it with the intention
I could
to live in it.
Yeah, I could physically live here, and I would be happy, and I wouldn't be like, oh, there's mold in the basement, but I hid it. You don't do that. You just like do the things that are right. And I think that's what you get rewarded for too. I see a lot of the shadier side of real estate, and you're like, they don't do it right, or they're purposely trying to hide stuff, and it always bites them. In the end of the day, when you're doing things incorrectly on purpose, I think you get bitten. Whether it's karma, whatever you say it is in the world, something happens, right? You're going to lose your wallet one day because you did this, right? So so we just try to do the right thing. Yeah.
So what? Again, I'm asking you dates, but So you become a realtor roughly
2010. I remember that. Yeah.
And you were immediately you started your own brokerage, or
no? So I started at Remax. Okay. So I didn't take my own advice, and that's funny to go back to the Tarago story. Yeah. I didn't take my own advice and knowledge And that's where you learn from your mistakes. So it's okay. So I started at Remax, which is a good company, good brand. Yeah. And I was there my first year. So I was still doing the business-to-business sales and Remax and selling houses, right? And I can give you the progression because I know all these numbers. I started my first year and I did 8 deals in my first year. And as a rookie, it's pretty good. Yeah. It's fine. You're like, oh, that's a nice bonus. Again, that's like almost like flipping one house, right? It wasn't like life-changing, right? And whatever you say it is in the world, yes. So I'm like, oh, it was nice, right? Like we would do some weekends, and you're like, part-time is tough in real estate, and you learn that real quick. So I did 8 deals in the first kind of 8 months. So it was like a deal a month, right? And I thought, it's funny how your life changes, by the way. Like thinking about money, I think about this a lot. When you're 14, I remember I was working at a place called Decade Distribution in Lethbridge, and I don't know what I was making, like $8 an hour, and you're like, oh my god, like I can make 15,000 this year or whatever, right? And like, and as you get older, you're like, I just need to make 100K. I just need to make 150. I just like whatever it is, you're So adding that 40, I was like, oh, I don't have to flip a house now because like I made another 40 grand from real estate. And then I got a phone call. I was at my job, my day job, and I got a phone call. Yes, so I'm like, and it was a person looking to buy a house. And I don't know how they got my number or whatever. So about an hour later, I was done my meeting. I called them, and they said like, oh, we are called another realtor. Thanks. And I just like felt like I just lost $5,000. Like it just disappeared. And I'm talking too much about the price, but whatever. Approximate commissions back in the day, about $5,000 a house, right? And I was like, son of a bitch. And I was like, okay. And I quit my job that day. And
that was the key moment.
That was it. I was just like, nope, done. But it's funny because it was like, I remember the day. I know exactly which house I was in. I know exactly which room was the first day that I was like, I'm starting this as I have nothing else to fall on. And my wife is pregnant. And it's like, well, let's go. Or maybe we had our first baby at that point. Anyway, it was very close to like.
But your back's against the wall.
I had no choice. Yeah. So I went from 8 deals in my first year to 20 in the next year to 50 in the next year to 100 in the next year. So it was a doubling effect of just like, oh, I can do this. I can work really hard and get through this. So that was kind of,
awesome.
That was the realization. You just had to like, I don't know, let go of the safety vest and let go of everything, just jump in. And like, now I'm working. Like, and I got this person to take care of it. It's funny when you have your first kid and you have kids, it's like, oh crap, like that, I got to help those 2 people, right? And so, that's kind of how it all progressed.
It's a mindset. It's just a totally different mindset. Once you jump in with 2 feet. And you've got no other.
You're like, no.
Technically, I guess you could say, well, I'll go find another job. But I mean, if you really care about giving it a go,
you jump in. If you want to win.
Okay, like I got no choices. I got no backups. I just got to go.
Just have to go. Which is scary and fun, but like it's provided for our business quite well over the years, right? And so within that first year, I left Remax. I met a man, his name is Miles Godlinton, and he's been in real estate for 45 plus years in Lethbridge or whatever, right? Everyone knows him in some way. They think they know him, they don't. He's actually like a very, very sweet man, but he can be a bear when he's in a competition with you, right? Like when he's negotiating against people, they're like, that guy's the biggest jerk in the world. But if you're standing behind him and you're like, looking over his shoulder going, oh, he's really fighting for his clients. But when you're on that side, he's a jerk. And you're like, well, but you know what? His phone just rings and he picks it up and they go, hey, I want to buy a house. He goes, okay, whoever you are. And he just goes and sells houses. Like he just works hard for his clients. So anyway, I met him. I was doing some cool marketing. That's how I kind of, I blasted up is I was like, I'm going to do some crazy stuff. And he likes crazy stuff. He's a crazy guy. So he called me and we went for coffee. And he just liked what I was doing. He had no intention. Like he had started his own company. He was Godlinton Realty, and he owned Remax. Like he was the owner of Remax. He sold Remax to I can't remember Alan Fox. I think it was our side at the time. So he owned it, and then Miles sold it. Miles started Godlinton Realty, and then we were just talking, and we just kind of like clicked. I know, like we're I don't know 25 years in age gap, right? We're not exact, but I was young, and he kind of saw what he was doing when he was young. He was like before
prodigy.
Before there was social media, there was Miles, and he would buy full newspaper ads that you would like unfold down the middle, and it would be this long, and it would be him standing there with the trophy, like #1 realtor. And so like he knew how to get leads and do stuff. And then when he saw what I was doing with social media and some videos and some neat marketing techniques, he's like, how's he doing this? So we kind of
get this
hit
guy
it
on
off.
board.
Yeah. So I left.
We'll talk anyway.
yeah. And then that's where I joined LethbridgeRealEstate.com. And I joined when there was Miles, Brian, and Pete. Those were the three partners.
I remember Pete.
Yeah, Pete Zoba, yeah. And then Brian Dingerville. And then Sean O'Brien was Brian's daughter, and she worked there. So there's just the four of them.
Yeah.
I came in and I was like, yeah, let's figure this out. We didn't even know how to, like, in real estate, you pay to be at a brokerage. Like that's your licensing, right? So you're licensed as a realtor. You're not allowed to be a realtor unless you're under a brokerage umbrella.
Yep.
We didn't even know, like, how do I pay? Like, what do I pay to be here, guys? Like, they're like, I don't know. We all just kind of pay to keep the lights on at the time, right? And so, yeah, it was kind of fun to just start that.
It wasn't structured yet.
No. And then once I went there and established myself and I was selling lots and lots of houses, I was able to get in on the partnership, which essentially I got in for free, which is kind of cool, right? Yeah. Because
well, you were bringing value.
I was bringing tons of value, and we all were just paying. So it was just like another guy that's willing to pay, right? When you're a partner at a law firm, you figure, I'm going to get all this money for being a partner. But when you're a partner of a startup, you're just paying to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So like that was how the partnership. So it wasn't like I bought in for free. I just bought in with monthly contributions to make sure the admin gets paid and whatever, right? And then slowly guys started retiring. Like Brian retired first, so we took his shares over, became 1/3 owners, and then Pete retired a few years back. So now it's just Miles and I are 50-50, and we've grown it to, off the top of my head, I think it's 38 realtors there and 45 employees total, or 45 people that are at the company total. And so we went from just this little, so funny, to being like the second largest selling brokerage in town behind Remax, which is cool. Remax is a national brand. They are on the TSX, like whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to see that you don't need the name brand to grow a brand. And I have different arguments with different realtors who want, you can do whatever. There's so many brokerage ideas out there. So many are like, well, you can't grow and go into Grand Prairie because you're LethbridgeRealEstate.com. I don't care. I literally don't care. And it's like the big fish, little sea scenario, right?
Everyone has different dreams, right? Or different intentions or whatever.
I will never fly to Edmonton and try to recruit agents and try to sell real estate in Edmonton. That's not my niche. Now, if I happen to move to Edmonton one day or to Texas, which is my hope, I could start Texas Real Estate. I don't care, whatever. I can take my skill set and move it. Yeah. So that's, I have that conversation a lot. And the way that the Real Estate Council of Alberta has changed the rules, there is some things we can do now. Like it used to be like, sorry, you are LethbridgeRealEstate.com. That's your brokerage and that's it forever. And now we can have divisions. We can have so I have Southern Alberta Property Management, a division of LethbridgeRealEstate.com, right? So you can have different trade names as long as they're a division of blank. Which is kind of fair because
that's nice,
actually. Yeah. So anyway, it's fun. And the name of the company is funny because it was never been done before, the naming your company to the website. And boy, it started a huge fight when it happened because they're like, well, you can't do that. Well, why can't we do it? We're like, we don't know why. Like they didn't know why we couldn't do it, but they just didn't think it was fair.
Well, I can't remember who I had a conversation with recently, but I'm trying to remember. Anyway, obviously you like data, so when we're trying to help people out, we're looking at like keyword searches and volume searches. Just to kind of give people like an idea of, even when it comes to their own personal branding, what they can do. And something I've yet to get someone to bite into in Lethbridge is naming their business, whatever it is, right? XYJ near me.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is literally...
Is that a huge Google search?
Usually the top search is
restaurants
like,
near me.
Realtor near me, right?
Oh, God.
And I'm like, what?
You could have called me. I would have definitely
We got to get someone to be like, whatever, real estate near me.com.
Yeah. That's not the worst. Even just as a local agent, that would be pretty sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then as people are searching, that's...
You should have told me this You should have showed me this mid interview because now I'm like, I'm not even listening to you anymore. I'm just like thinking about it. I just came up with like 3 ideas while I was in here. Damn. All right.
Right. New homes near me.
All right. We're gonna have another meeting after this. Yeah.
This is a different conversation. No, but it's funny that something so actually that's who it was. It was a salon.
Oh.
Like she wanted to open a hair cutting business.
Yeah.
And she had called me and she's like, do you have any like suggestions on what to call it? And I was like, well, that depends. I'm like, do you want to just be like cool and trendy and come up with your own, fun, unique name? Or do you want it like based off like what people are searching for? I said, because the number one search term is
near me.
Yeah, salons near me. And I'm like, just call it salon near me. And she's like, I don't like that.
When does this podcast come? Because I need to get ahead of this for anyone else to listen. Okay, sweet. I have ideas already. Like literally just nearme.com and then just like run a bunch of businesses.
Right.
As like a dot ahead of them.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man.
There's your subsidiaries or whatever.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, division of. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, like you do that, ColdaleNearMe.com as your real estate division. Oh man. See? So I gotta expand. But
that's right.
The other funny thing is it never really stopped us. Everyone's like, oh well, I live in Raymond. Okay, how many do you sell in Raymond? Yeah. They're like, oh, I did 3 last year. I was like, I did 30. So is Lethbridge Real Estate stopping me? No. Like people want to hire us, and I think there's a hubris to owning your own business where, especially our industry, like you've dealt with a lot of realtors. Yeah. They are in their head a local celebrity, and it's funny. And I'll tell you my story with my kids in a second. But there's a bit of hubris going like, well, I am pretty important. It's like, are you? Because people just want. They just want you to do a good job, and they want you to be honest, and they want you to be kind of funny. Like you got to sometimes be a stand-up comedian. Sure. Like literally, I'll show houses and I just tell jokes the whole time. And if I show a client a house a year later, they're like, "You already told me that joke," and I was like, "Damn, yeah, you're right." Because like you just have a routine that you're just trying to have fun because it is stressful. You're just trying to make life good, right?
It's a big deal.
It is, yeah. And you'll like this story because you're in advertising and everything, and. I try to ground my children in reality. Okay. I think I've seen too many times in my life that agents will get big heads, right? They become too big. And then
like
life.
Just mentally? Or
mentally, they are celebrities. Okay, literally, they'll be like, I'm the greatest thing that's ever happened to the world. Blah, blah, blah. And literally, you've seen it, and I'm not going to say anything, but you've seen it, and I could probably name 4 people that you would know. You'd be like, oh yeah, I remember like just this absolute, they're at the top of the world, and then you crash. And it's because you're not hyper aware of yourself. So my children, you go to Costco, I go to Costco, 5 to 10 people will stop you at Costco. Just no matter what you do, right? My kids at first are like, you're so popular. And I was like, well, and I said to them, there was 1,000 people at Costco today. 3 of them said hi to me. 997 people did not even see me. So, and then when we were doing lots of radio ads, they'd hear on the radio, oh my God, Dad, you're a celebrity. Did you hear that? You're on the radio. I was like, oh yeah, like the mayor didn't call me and be like, Justin, you got to write this ad and read it on the radio. We need to hear your voice. I paid that company for me to record my voice. And then maybe I get money out of that later. And same with bus ads and all that stuff. They're like, I see you all around town. Again, I'm like, yeah, I pay to put that there. No one calls me and like, we got to have your face, right? Like it's not, so, but my kids now have realized like, oh, okay, got it. Like he's just a human that does advertising to sell things, right? And I have these like headphones that don't go in your ear to go over, and sometimes you forget you're wearing headphones all day. Like if you got your AirPods in, you just walk around town. One kid the other day was like, oh, do you do like podcasts and stuff? Because I was wearing them. I was like, nah, it's just like I take phone calls all day. Like, but again, I'm just like so grounded, I think, in that in Lethbridge, you can just be a good business owner. Yeah. You don't have to be this celebrity. Yeah. And there's a big enough pie. I think that's what gets missed out in is like there's a lot of houses that sell every year, whatever it is, 5,000 in the area. And so if there's 5,000 sales, and there's 2 ends, we call it, like a buyer end and a seller end, that's 10,000. Yeah. Well, if our team got 357 last year, we didn't get 9,000 of them. You know what I mean? Like there's, or whatever it is, it's 6,000. We got a good number. We got 5 or 6% of the whole market share. That's good. That's what you want, right? Yeah. And I think people, they watch too much YouTube and they watch too much TV and they're like, well, Google gets 100%. Well, okay. Well, we're not Google. And you have to be okay with how your business is run. Yeah. And having competitors in a highly competitive market is hard, and that's Lethbridge 101, right?
How many realtors are in Lethbridge?
405, I think.
Holy moly.
Yeah, in like the board, so they call it LDAR, Lethbridge District, right? And so within kind of like our area, there's 405. Okay. And so not just Lethbridge, but like kind of like south of Claresholm. And kind of Tabor, border to border. Like not to Brooks, but like to Tabor-ish and to Pincher Creek-ish and to the south, kind of like that, right? So there's about 4 or 5 of us. And, like any industry, some people just do a couple deals a year and they're happy with that. And some people have, like, I have a team and I do more deals and I'm happy with that. And so you just have to, like, know where you are. And I think,
I can appreciate that.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses are like that in Lethbridge too, where they get like, we're the number one. No, we're the number one. No, we're the number one. It's like, okay, well, you can't all be the number one, but you all are good at different things, right? Like, I own a Toyota and I love Toyota and I go to Toyota for everything.
Right.
And I send as many referrals as I can do there. But that doesn't mean that the Dodge dealerships are bad.
Right.
They do a different thing that I don't take part in. I take part in this one or this one, right? And
you can have some loyalty.
Of course, you could be loyal to a good company that's like a local, like guys that we grew up with, and at the same time, I'm not gonna be like grabbing people away from the Dodge dealership and dragging them, because that fills a good niche for a lot of people. What they need, work trucks. So I think about it with the realtors too. Is like, you're not gonna make everyone happy all the time.
No.
Like, oh my gosh.
No.
Like, there's nothing better than firing a client. Like, I've had to fire clients. I've been fired. Everyone's like, there used to be a guy that was like, I've never been fired before. I'm like, that's not possible, because we've all been fired. Like, everyone's been fired. You've been fired. I've been fired. And sometimes you're just like, oh, I feel so good. Like, because you just don't get along with that person anymore. It's not about being fired or not. You're just like,
there's good ones and there's the ones that you're like, damn.
Yeah. There's some that hit you and you're like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. But then you got to know, you don't know people's emotions when they get home at night and talk.
I know from my industry, I learned that sometimes people just want change.
I think that's what it is.
It doesn't have to do with them disliking you or not thinking you didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
I think in my industry, and maybe similar to yours, like, sometimes just people want a different perspective from time to time, and so they might work with you for 3, 4, 5 years, and then it's like, okay, now they're going to work with your competitor.
Yeah, let's go try something. Yeah, and we all do that. Like, I mean, I think the old saying is you got to fire your bank every 5 years. Like, it's the same thing. You're just like, why? What did they do wrong? Nothing. I just want to try. Like, this next bank's going to give me a crazy amount of stuff, and they won't, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so there's a little bit of that. We have a saying in our team is like, it's sometimes better to be the second realtor. Lethbridge as a market is a pretty smart real estate market, but people are not going to overpay. They're not going to go crazy, right? We get multiple offers here. Let's say it's a $400,000 house. You'll get $390 for one offer, $395, $399, $402, and you're like, okay, we'll take $402. Like, you don't get Calgary where it's like, I'll give you $82,000 over asking, right? So if you're not pricing them right at the beginning, sometimes and the opposite can be true. A realtor can be doing a bad job in pricing and they go too low, and they just have a good loyal client, and then that house sells in a minute, and now it's like, oh, I'm such a good realtor. But you lost them $30,000.
Right.
So so there's a hard balance of, it's a guessing game. What should a thing that is totally unique and has never sold before, essentially, like your house is always unique, even if it's like cookie cutter, it's unique. What is that worth? Oh. So many people stop me in the street and say that.
Must be challenging, because you're also dealing with, I would imagine, like, sentimental value.
Oh, the emotions are nuts.
That's the
They're like, did you see this tile I put in?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. It's like $2 tile.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like
but they did it with their hands, so there's some value in that.
I have that conversation with a lot of people. I'm like, well, how much does that add in value? Like, even just, your background here. It's really cool. It probably doesn't add value to the building. It adds saleability.
Sure.
So someone will walk into this building and the next building, the bay over, and you have this and you're painted and you look good, and theirs is just white and boring. They might be like, same price. I like this one a little better because it's less work for me to do. Or you know what I mean? So, but I'm not going to pay you $100,000 for your work. I'll give you the same price, but I'll take it first. And that's what you have to be okay with in Lethbridge is like, you're not going to spend your way out of it. Like, the market's the market, right? And people will look at the prices and that's it. So,
So being, you got into a partnership, being broker owner, 4 years ago. What outside of the marketing side, like what were the biggest drivers that got to like take you, I guess, to the next level, if we want to call it that? I'm not trying to make it sound like you're, again, you're second largest, right? But I just mean, mindset wise, like, what got you to that next level? What were some of the, not tools specifically, but like the things that you did to like systemize or?
We do try a lot to, so like, I guess the broker side of things is you're trying to recruit agents, but there are some agents who I've had interviews with and I'm like, well, we're not a good fit. And so it's, sometimes you think of it as like, you go to the States and you go some places, it's like a puppy mill. If you have a pulse, they'll take you to your brokerage, right? And so we're not like that. And I'm hesitant to even say like, oh, I will take anyone, but they have to be willing to learn and willing, because like, I am the one that gets sued. If something goes wrong,
right.
they sue the brokerage and the broker. The realtors get off scot-free, essentially. They have to pay the fines,
sure.
but like I'm the one that gets taxed. We've never been sued yet. And our motto is like, well, let's just do it right. Well, do I have to disclose this? Technically, no, but why not?
Yep.
What's the worst thing that happens if you disclose this? You lose a deal? Oh, no, right?
Yeah.
But
somebody's out there.
someone might sue you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so what we've done is we try to make our realtors' lives a little easier, where we'll buy equipment, we'll buy technology, it benefits me as a person who still sells houses, but we'll go and get good technology. And we'll implement those systems in place so that their days are a little easier. Because in real estate, your day could be all over the place. You have to be hyper aware of your calendar. There's no worse feeling than at 4:03 p.m. you're at home with your kids and someone texts you like, "Are you here? Are you coming?" And you're like, "Where am I supposed to be right now?" Like, and so we try to implement a lot of systems to be like, get this in place, follow up. That's really like real estate 101 is, an email came in on a lead, who's following it up? Yep. How are we getting it? What is the drip campaign?
System? Is it?
And is it good or bad? Is it just like, is it another realtor signing up to our website, which we get a lot of, right? Like just trying to competitive advantage and stuff. So I think that's really it. I try to be as just straight up with my guys as possible. Guys and gals, is just like, let's just be honest, then let's do the right thing. And some people don't like that. It's okay. Really? You don't have to be here. Oh. Yeah, I have no... I will never, and I'll never stop someone from trying to grow their business how they want as well. So if someone says to me, I think the grass is greener on this side, like you said, it's like a client. Like the realtors are essentially clients of mine. They work for our company. Yes. They pay us a fee. We give them services. If they think they can do it better somewhere else, I've never said, no, don't do it.
Oh, sure.
I'll do math for them. Yeah. And I'll be like, I've built so many spreadsheets you wouldn't believe where I go, you will lose a ton of money doing your plan, and here's why. And by the way, that man back there, Miles, is doing this 45 years, and in 1994 he did what you think you're inventing the wheel. He did it, and this is why it failed. And I did this, and this is why it failed. And so if you don't want our advice, take it. But if you don't, I can't stop people, and I don't want to, right? I want to keep good people with our company, but I want them to grow as they see fit. Yeah. So
no, dude, I agree with you on that front. There's nothing better than, I don't know, I think I don't want to say getting excited, because obviously it's sad to lose people. But I want to be excited for someone if they don't see that this is a good fit. Yeah. And they want to move on to something else. It's like, I can't remember who told me that, but somebody once told it to me, and I probably, chop it up into pieces. It's not the way it should be said, but he kind of said like, I'm all for people that are excited to be here and want to stay. Yeah. All for people that are not excited to be here and want to go. I'm not excited for people that don't want to be here and stay. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good way. That's actually kind of interesting. Like, because that person is just bringing, not necessarily toxicity, but just they're not bringing their A game. Right? You're right. Yeah. And that's going to start to spread with other team members and whatever. And so that can cause friction. I have two scenarios where that's happened in my career, where we've had a guy go, hey, you're, don't take this as a brag, but you're a great broker. I really like what you do. I think I can make something happen over there. Yeah. I go, okay, go. And 3 months later, they were like, can I come back, please? Like, that didn't work. And of course. Yeah. And I had one more recently where it's like, they couldn't figure out the math. And I built a spreadsheet saying, like, if you go there, that person will benefit you or benefit from you more than you'll benefit from them. And they will take all your money. And they're like, no, I think it'll work. And I said, okay. And like, I mean, the hard numbers are the hard numbers. Like it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's equals this. Yeah. Like it's not, I didn't make this up, right? And I got them to agree to that. They're like, yes, that makes sense. But, and then they went, and then the prediction of the calculator came true. And at that point, you're like, you should stay there. Because you don't fit the culture anymore of being like understanding and working with us and trying to be like, hyper aware of where you should be in the world, right? And so that's fine. We're just like, you never want to make enemies, because real estate's a competitive collaboration. That's what I call it. It's like when I go to a listing, I tell the clients this. I shouldn't tell this, but anyway, I tell the sellers when I meet with them, like, listen, like today, I hate every realtor in Southern Alberta. They're my enemies. Like, I want to win. I want to be your listing agent, right? And tomorrow, when you sign the contract with me, I'm their best buddy, because I need them to find me a buyer as well. And there's 12,000 realtors in Alberta.
I want to advertise to all 12,000 of them. So I can't piss all of them off. Like I got to be friends with some of them, right? And you have good relationships. Like there's, any industry. I'm sure you have competitors who you could have coffee with, go golfing with, and you're like, it's fine. We do things a little differently, but we're not mad at each other.
No, right? I got a guy I golf with almost every week. But I like him because I respect professionalism.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what I respect someone that treats their industry, regardless of what it is, but that they treat it with a high degree of integrity and they deliver. And so with those kind of people, you're like, hey man, one day you're going to get the deal that we're both going to bid on, and the next one I'm going to get. And we don't need to be upset about it. But I also know the opposite can occur, right? And it's just like that guy got the deal, and you just like you can get angry. Same with the other person. They can get angry. So,
but it doesn't do you any good.
No.
It's already signed, right?
No.
I have a good realtor story, and it's a good friend. And every once in a while, they'll be like, "I really lit up that person because they didn't use me," and it's like, okay, and we've been the opposite. Yes, and it's like, that person's never going to use you again. And I have so many examples. Jen Broadway is my partner that we do the team with. She will write like, oh my gosh, thank you for even thinking about me. Thanks for the interview. And you know what? If anything ever goes wrong, please call me. But I hope your house sells before that. Yeah. And so many times they're like, didn't sell, Jen, can you just do it for me? And it's because it's the opposite. Now you light that person up with a nasty email, which I can write the nastiest of emails, but you light them up. They're just gonna tell 80 of their friends, look at this crazy person writing me a letter. And anyway, I've tried to have that conversation, but I'm like, well, you do you. Like it doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
I've seen that happen with Google reviews.
Oh yes, yeah.
I always tell people don't get in a fight with a Google review.
Yes, yeah. You know what I'm getting lit up on a lot in the comments right now, and I just don't care. Facebook is vile. Yeah. So, but on the property management side of the division, we got to advertise our clients' homes, right? We're looking for renters. Yeah. Well, we'll list a place for. I listed one the other day. It's a full place, brand new, never been lived in, beautiful, 4 bedrooms, 3 bath, blah blah blah. $2,400 a month. Yeah. Me too. By the way, I think it's gross. I think it's gross that people have to pay that. But that guy bought a brand new for like $500,000. Yeah. His mortgage payment, like he makes probably like $20. Yeah. By the time he pays me and all the taxes and all the stuff, he probably makes $20 a month. Yeah. And at $2,400, right? People in the comments, you're the scum of the earth. And you just can't read the comments. Sometimes they just pop up in your phone, you're like, I am not. And you're like, but it doesn't, again, you can't hurt my feelings. Right. But my wife's like, oh man, these people are talking trash. I'm like, I don't read it. Because the 20 people talking trash, I go over to my inbox, 200 applications. Right. I'll pay that, God, please, me first, right? Yeah. So it's funny because you're just like, you just can't worry about that stuff. It's not worth the time. No, and you can't. I get it. Like I get why people can be upset at market conditions. I mean, and I didn't invent it. Yeah, I'm like I didn't make up rent or interest rates or prices of Canada.
It sucks. It's not. Nobody wants to pay more for a house. Nobody wants to pay more for rent. Nobody. Like it's just natural, but. Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah. I think people just get stuck on the fact, like, I get it, all right. If someone's owned a property for the last 30 years, I understand the mentality of being like, well, why do you charge what you're charging? Oh, yeah. I get why they think that way. Yes, yeah. But at the same time, like that person's just trying to make a living too, and they're trying to maximize on market conditions just like anybody else would. Just like any other bit. And I always think that to people, like, if you own this property, wouldn't you want to make as much money as you could? Like, of course you would. Yes. And I work for the owner, and it's just funny watching the comments. They're like, because until you own it, you can have that opinion. Yes. Once you own it, it's similar to like employee and owner relationships too. I feel like, right? It's like, when you're the owner, you look at things in a certain way, and an employee can, criticize you or, go home and have their dinner table talk behind your back, and say, oh, this is crap and this is this, and then once they get into like a managerial position or an ownership position, they're like, oh man, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. That guy was right. Like, that stuff actually does happen, and man, I should have thought differently. We get the same on foreclosures. We'll do a lot of foreclosure deals. Yeah. And the comments are like, you people stealing their houses and blah blah blah. And I think to myself, a
a lawyer and a bank and a judge decided that this person is not allowed to live in the house anymore. Justin never had that decision. Like, Justin got a letter from a judge saying, we order you to sell this house, right? That's what happens. Like, you are now hereby ordered to sell this house, not volunteered.
Yeah.
So you do it. And I think to myself, the people that are making those comments, I want to just meet them and be like, listen, what if your best friend, okay, yeah, today, he borrowed $100 from you, okay, and then he never paid you back.
Right.
You would be all over him to pay you back, right? Well, of course I would. Yeah, yeah. And especially you saw him at the casino and he was playing around and he bought a new golf club and you're like, where's my $100?
Yeah,
so we're talking about 100.
Yeah.
These people borrowed $300,000 and didn't pay it back. So I think it sucks that someone gets foreclosed on, but you don't always know the circumstances, right? And so maybe they couldn't pay it back because they got hurt or this or that. I've met families where we sold their house on a foreclosure and then they're like, I was so relieved when it was all done. Because trust me, you ever got a bill and you're like, I didn't pay that bill, overdue? Oh crap. You like, your heart feels bad. You got to go pay it right now. They had 12 months of this bank and a lawyer calling them, like, where's our money? Where's our money?
Actually,
and it's just a stress.
You would know this then.
Yeah.
What is the typical foreclosure like timeline?
Oh, it's over a year. It's over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like typically what'll happen is, let's say you go a month, you miss a payment, you might get an email the first month, like, hey, just, whoops, you missed your payment. And then the third month they go, hey, are you okay? Like, they'll call you, like, is everything fine? And then once you kind of admit, like, I can't pay it, and then it goes to some lawyers, and then the lawyers just say, well, what can we do? Like, or the bank might be the first person. Let's say the bank's the first person. Sure. They'll go, can we adjust your payments? Like, can we give you a pause? When are you going to get
so they do try.
Of course, the bank doesn't want. The bank
it
doesn't make money if you're not paying them interest.
Right.
They actually don't get money out of the sale.
Right.
So if you get foreclosed on, you have equity, the judge will give you your money back. So it's not like you're just like, oh, the banks are foreclosing people to make $100,000 equity. Nope. If there's equity in it, it doesn't typically go to foreclosure. It goes to a court-ordered sale, and a judge says, okay, what do we think we can sell it for? They ask for our opinion of value, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so we'll get to that point. But so about 3 to 5 months in, you're getting a lot of letters from lawyers, they're called demand letters, that you owe this money and owe it now and pay. And eventually you just say, I can't. And then what the bank can do is they can go to a judge, depending on the situation, and say, I want a court order to sell the home. And then the judge will go back and say, well, let's set a court date. And that could be 3 months from now. And then the defendant and then the bank will have to show up and say, okay, here's why we think we should be able to sell it and force a sale. And the person will be like, well, I can catch up tomorrow, or you know what? And so judge might give them another 3 months. So it could be a year, it could be 18 months. Once it gets to the point where the judge has said, get out, then it's pretty quick.
Well, when you can wholeheartedly prove like there's no
not intending to pay. There's just no way to pay. There's equity in it. Everyone will be made whole if we can just eliminate this from their debt.
Right.
So that's when a judge will order for pay. They can order a sale where you still live in it, which is very awkward for everyone involved, right? Because the owner lives there. The realtor is ordered to sell the place. The owner does not want you in their house. They're not taking photos. You're not doing showings. It makes it really hard. Then what we'll end up doing is a lot of times we just keep note, hey, the now tenant won't let us in. We just document it. We send it back to the court. The lawyer will go to the court and say, hey, they're not letting them sell the house. Then the judge will order an eviction. And then that's a standard. It's different. Like there's the Tenancies Act doesn't take over. A judge can order whatever they want. So they can say 90 days, 6 days, get out tomorrow kind of deal, right?
I got to assume the average person is just more nice about it. Would that be fair to say, or not really?
No, it's not. It's not a great process.
It's kind of like a divorce then.
It is like a divorce. They're and they don't like anyone involved because everyone's trying to take their house, and that's totally fair.
Yeah,
I get that. I'd be annoyed too. So once the judge orders the eviction, it goes vacant. Then it goes on the market. Again, it goes through a few processes. Like they ask for our opinion of value. They get an appraiser opinion of value. The lawyers will decide what price we want. And then we'll just start looking at offers. And if offers are unacceptable, the lawyer won't bring it to court. If the lawyer goes, that'd pay off the lawyer fees, the realtor fees, the mortgage fees, the mortgage itself, that'll pay everything off, court costs, and there might be a little bit left over. Then they'll bring it to a judge, and the judge can order, okay, we'll accept that. So it's quite a process, and understanding the whole process it's interesting because I can tell you everything that happens from point A to point B.
So it's not just like the bank's like, well, they have
Yeah, get out.
$100,000 outstanding on a $300,000 mortgage, and it's like sell it for 100 so that we can get our
or sell it
money.
for 200. We make 100 grand.
Yeah.
No. If there's equity,
Still has to
that
be
person
sold for
gets it
fair
back.
market
Yeah,
value,
yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lawyers make the most at the end of the day because they just start building a file. Like that's what we call it, right? Like they just go, oh, we sent them a letter. That's $500. Oh, we did this. And so, sometimes the lawyers and the court costs eat up all the equity too. So that kind of sucks, right? But it's not a great situation. But again, just going on Facebook and being like, you're a jerk because you're selling this person's home versus you didn't see what happened for the last 18 months to get to this point, right? And again, if your buddy borrowed $100 and didn't pay back, you'd be pissed off. And we were talking about hundreds of thousands. So there's always that, like, just understand a whole situation. That's I try to live my whole life like that. Is like, oh, this guy hit me. Oh, did he? And I go over there. It's like, no, I was walking this way and I tripped and you're like, you got to sometimes listen to all sides, and then sometimes it's somewhere in the middle. Usually it's like you purposely hit him, but he thought you assaulted him. Like somewhere in the middle, and that's where I always get with my life. It's like just try to understand both sides and do the best you can.
I mean that's all the guy can do, I guess. So you got how many realtors working for? Like
38 that work. Yeah.
So. They're obviously
that's a good average.
They're not employees.
No, they're all general contractors.
Well, I always remember that. I still remember. I don't know if you ever knew this, but my first office as in marketing was renting an office in Maxwell Realty.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When it was over by the corner of Third Avenue.
Third Avenue there,
And so I got to see a lot of stuff, right? I got to know a lot of different realtors, but one of the things I always remembered was, like, I would see the new people that would come in, and the desire to be like, let's call it a top realtor. But they were just starting out, right? And it was funny to me. I was like, oh, like what got you in the business? A lot of times the answer was, well, you can make a lot of money at this. And I'm like, well, I mean, you can make a lot of money in any business. What are you going to do? And I always remember pointing out, I said, I don't know if this is still true today, but I said, did you read the bottom of your business card? Because obviously they would be typically working for Maxwell Realty, Remax, or whatever. And I'm like, on the bottom it says, independently owned and operated.
Right.
And I'd be like, do you know what that means? You're your own business. So, like, are you going to invest in whatever it was, right?
Whatever it is.
Obviously, I would talk about marketing because that's what I did. But I'm like, what are you investing in for yourself for marketing? Like, did you set up a savings account? Like, what are the things that what's your business plan? And I'd be like, well, I'm going to sell houses to my friends and family first. And I'd always be like, look, this isn't like Cutco knives. Like,
if you showed up to the bank with that business, would they give you a loan? Like, that's what you should ask them.
But not only that, you would be lucky if one family member at the time you become a realtor just happens to be selling a house.
You'd be shocked how
that
many
they're
people
actually willing to give you the listing for.
I've seen that a lot. They're like, well, my nephew just got into real estate, but it was like 6 weeks ago anyway, so you're going to list our place for us, and maybe he can help us buy. And I go, okay, sure. Like, but there's a lot. Like, I do tell realtors, I'm like, your mom will use you. Don't count on anyone else. At that point, like, you have to earn it. And it's a business plan. And no one takes it that way. And there's nothing more insulting. Can you imagine if I walked into your office right now? I was like, I should start a marketing company. This seems easy. And it's like, that's what I get a lot.
Me too.
Yes. People will be like, they'll walk up like, I should just be a realtor. That looks really easy. I was like, try it. Go for it. Right? The retention rate of real estate is not great. If you get in, you wouldn't believe how many times we're like, new realtor, and 6 months later, that realtor's out of the business. And a new realtor, they're out of the business. And it's like, it's tough. There's no salary. There's nothing. And I say to people, the honest answer, when someone comes to my office, brand new agent, and says like I'm ready to go, I want to start. I'm like, do you have a job? No, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. I'm like, don't quit your job tomorrow. Because I said, let's say your mom is the first buyer, and she's going to buy a house today from you. Okay, yes. Or she's going to start looking at houses. Let's say that. So you're going to look at houses for 2 to 3 weeks, see what you can find. Then she's going to make an offer on it. Okay, so this is your only client because you have no one else yet. Right. She's going to make an offer on a house. It gets accepted. Another 2 weeks has to go by. So we're at 5 weeks now. That's just for condition period, right? So let's say that house, everything's flawless. So now we're at 5 weeks. Then she'll take possession in about 5 to 7 weeks after that.
Right.
Let's say 8 weeks. So we're just being fair. That's 13 weeks. So that's 3 months from today, from a buyer starting today. You get paid after she gets possession and all the money's transferred to the lawyers and everything. So can you wait? And ask your wife, can we afford 4 months with nothing? Because let's say you make $5,000 on a commission. Now divide that by 4 months. Well, you made $1,250 a month. Can you survive with that? Oh, my mortgage payment's $1,800. Yeah, okay. Don't quit your job. And that's what you have to have. But there are gurus out there who are like, you get in real estate and you quit your job day one, and I'll make you $100,000 in your first year. And it's like, okay, thank you, hero, but that's not happening. And it does. By the way, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm a pretty good realtor. I did 8 in my first year, and I turned out pretty good. But you've got to ramp up. There's a ramp up.
I think the reason, even outside of real estate, that people say that is just the commitment.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I feel like you learned that.
Oh yeah, when I jumped out, I doubled my business.
Jump,
yes.
And you are the person that is okay with handling the pressure of my back's against the wall, I'm ready to go. You're gonna find out real quick whether you're the person that's gonna make it. Or whether you're the person that needs to just work for someone. And that's not a bad thing.
No.
It's just you can't be I've never felt that way. You can't be entrepreneur mindset but also be like
scared.
Well, I don't like saying employee mindset, even though that's the first word that comes to mind, but it's it's the safety net as well. Right? Like if you're just like, I need my safety net, you're not enough of a risk taker.
No, but I do tell people there's a ramp up period.
Yes.
So day one jumping in 2 feet, I'm all for it. But do you have a $20,000 saving account? Will your wife divorce you? Yes. What is your business plan? Yeah, exactly. If you're buying a house, you have a down payment first. And that's what you're getting in business. You have a down payment on this business because you're going to need it. There's startup costs, and those startup costs are eating macaroni and cheese for the first year. That's really what it is. And then just get over it, right? And everyone sees, I don't know, I own a truck that's 5 years old and I don't owe a penny on it. And, I try to save where I can because our payment schedule isn't I don't get a salary. I get whatever I sell, I eat, right? So you get paid really good in June, July, August, September, and you got there's a parabola of Lethbridge, I say. It goes January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. And so December, where all your spending is, sucks because no one's moving in Alberta in December. They are, but it's less than you are.
I worked on the rigs for a short stint, and it wasn't for me. But it was a good experience. But I remember watching the guys, and it was they were making good money. So they bought the quad, they bought the big truck, they bought the camper, they got the mortgage. Well, they got the mortgage first, generally.
Hopefully,
But when it was all said and done, it was hey, do you remember that there's a shutdown period? And there's this, and these things happen. You're not always going to be at work. Have you saved for that? And it was feast or famine.
Right. Yeah.
And it was when they were working and the money was flowing, it was the toys were getting paid, they were having a good time, whether it was travel, whatever, it didn't matter, right? But they were spending it didn't, there was never going to be a problem. And then all of a sudden that spring breakup would hit and they'd be oh crap, how am I going to make that truck payment and this payment?
Going back to my very first year in real estate, I joined in the worst possible market. So everyone, the 2008, 2009 markets, oh my gosh, I'm the best realtor in the world. People were making $300,000 a year and they'd never done it before. The next year, I knew a person, I'm not kidding, she made $300K, and then the next year in 2010, she made $0. And that's your feast or famine. She didn't have marketing. She just was in a good market.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay. And then I started selling. Actually, it's funny because this person kind of helped me get going. And the resentment level was insane. They're like, well, how's he getting deals? People were complaining against me because I did a video saying how many people signed up for my last video for this thing I was doing. And people called the real estate board and complained. How come he's getting so many leads? And the board's like, he's allowed to do that. But I did get a call from the board. They're like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, marketing. They just forgot what that was for 2 years because it was so easy. That's it.
I mean, I'm sure you invest in your business well enough, but I have those conversations again, being in the field.
Being it in.
And it's not self-serving in the way I always find it interesting. People say, well, we're either too busy or busy enough. So we don't need to do anything. And I'm like, but that's not going to be forever.
Right.
So while you're busy and busy enough, and you have the funds to fund this,
Yes. Keep
activity.
Keep it going. Yeah.
It's going to feed when all of a sudden things start to
yeah.
dip.
Yeah.
You'll still be like, for lack of a better way to say it, you'll still be the top of mind company, realtor, whatever the business is.
Yeah.
That people are gonna be like, oh, I need this, and I'll go check this guy out.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, when times are bad, nobody knows you exist.
No. Oh yeah. I see that every year.
And when they're bad, you're not going to invest because you don't have the money.
No, that's it. Every year I see realtors in January, February, March. No, they're doing marketing. They're doing work because they're at home. They got time, and then they ramp up for June, July, August. They're like, oh, that's so wicked, but they think it's the year.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's because you spent so much time for the last 3 months.
Doing that.
And then in June, July, and August, when you're super busy, guess what you don't do? You don't do any time in the business because you're working, or sorry, you don't on the business, you're in the business. Yeah. And then your parabola crashes and you're like, well, that's the year. And then, no, that's an excuse. Because my parabola, I bet you, like some of them are like this. Mine's like this. Like it's more, you always drop because the amount of sales drop. But we do the same marketing 365, and it's just always running in the background, and that's where the drip campaigns get. Like there's so much extra that goes into it. Yeah, and I think you're right. It's just like, I can always tell a realtor when, September or October comes, like, I had no closings. Yeah. What'd you do for last month? Oh, I was busy. I couldn't do anything else. Well, you should have hired an assistant while you were busy then, right?
We do the same, and I would say like we're always pretty flat.
Yeah.
That's what I would call it. Like, at least for where we're at, I feel like we've hit kind of, not a peak, but just we've hit a certain market saturation level, if you want to call it that. Kind of like when you're like, hey, like we have 5 or 6% of the market share. We have whatever that percentage is of the market share, and so we're fortunate enough where it's steady. Yeah, like it's up. Yeah,
you try to add,
but it's like so minuscule that it's just like, okay, like maybe 1 month you're down 1 client, the next month you're up 2, and the next month you're down 1, the next month you're up 2. So it's just kind of minimal fluctuations, but which is good for consistency's sake. But
totally, yeah.
But yeah, that comes with like never stop.
Yes,
you still never stop doing something.
Yeah.
Whatever that look, it doesn't mean that you have to hire a marketing agency. It just means like but you got to be doing something. You got to be active.
Yeah. But I think that's not to plug you too much, but no, but like that's what people do need is because then they say I'm too busy. Okay, great. Then offload it. Stop pretending that you can do everything. Yeah. And I've learned that a long time. Maybe that's one key to success that I think a lot of guys will do is I learned that as an OCD person, I can do everything 100% right my way.
Right.
But I could offload it to someone that can do it about 92% as good as me, but it'll get done.
Yeah.
Right? And if I have to tweak it, it's a 15-minute phone call. Hey, do you mind tweaking this wording and this wording? And they go, sure. And then that's it. Like I have one of the best assistants in the world at my office. I don't have to tell him nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, every once in a while he'll send something out, he'll send an email, I'll go, that's better than what I wrote. Right? Like, because he's in that game. Yeah. But I don't want to sit there and cut checks for people. That's not my thing. Yeah. So you hire good people or you offload to good companies. Yep. And it's like, I suck at marketing. Great. There's good companies that'll do that for you. Oh, what's your budget? Well, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Right? I only want to spend $3,000 a month, Levi. You'd be like, I can definitely get you something good for that, right? Yeah. And would you spend $3,000 on yourself, filming yourself? Yeah, I would. Well, let me do it. Yeah. Right? Like, what are you doing? Like, do what you're good at.
I almost explain it different, or I've been trying to actually.
Yeah.
Because, at least right now, the market shift I see in my industry is that there is kind of a, I don't know if it's a need or just a desire, but that there kind of is a bit of a shift to like doing some internal hiring.
Oh yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But I always, at least from my perspective, maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me if I'm being an idiot. But I look at it. It's like, okay, well, let's just say that you're going to pay X person $50,000 a year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would be fairly, give or take, fairly average.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, whatever.
Right.
But you're going to pay someone $50,000 a year. That now does not include any of your external activities.
Right.
So that didn't include like your Facebook ad budget or your Google ads or
that's just having them following you around. Yeah.
That's just, I have an employee that is in arm's reach that I can say, can you get this done?
Yeah.
And I'm like, for 40, 50 grand, you can have a team of 10 people.
Right. Yeah.
And that is including your ad budget. That is, that's spending money on Google ads and search engine optimization, doing videos and da-da-da-da. So the biggest challenge that I see is like, it's like they want people at arm's length.
Right.
But the communication and the platforms available to have that communication free flowing
Oh,
is there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the biggest thing I'm trying to overcome.
That's a good way to look at it.
Is like you're going to spend it internally. If you offload that, yes, there's going to be some bumps in there because they're not day to day.
Yeah,
I get it. Like I get that.
Film me taking this phone call. It's like, well, I can't do that for you. Like I'm not in your office today. Yeah.
So that's like the biggest thing I'm trying to educate people on is like, look, if you were going to hire someone part time even, and it was going to cost you $20,000 a year, okay, that doesn't include
the other things.
The other things. So for $20,000, you can still have like $1,000 a month going to an ad spend.
Well, even us, like you go, well, I got some realtors that aren't doing anything. Let's get them filming, and you're like, or they could go sell one house and make us $5,000 or $6,000. I was like, why would you have that guy filming for you when I could hire it out? And so you start to learn. Some people don't, and that's okay. But you know, when you get longer in the tooth and you're like, I don't want to do this stuff anymore, and eventually I want to retire. Well, I think the biggest problem with my industry is like, how do people retire? Because you stop selling houses. They always say, I'll sell my book. It's not like an insurance company. There's no book. Because you'll get a call from a person. They'll be like, oh, hey, you still selling real estate? No, I retired. But I got a good guy that'll do it for you. And they're like, oh, okay. And they interview him, and maybe they don't like him as much as they like you. And that's it. And then all of a sudden, those phone calls just stop coming. So your 25% referral book that you thought was going to come just doesn't come. No one's buying it out, right? No. It's paid after the fact, right? And so you have to think, well, how can I run a successful business that I could walk away from and still be the owner of the business, where those guys are all working as a company, and they're making money, and I get just revenue share or whatever, right? So it's a tough industry, and I think if you have the lack of foresight to hire good companies to help you grow, you're just stuck. And
okay, I got one more crazy question for you, because you built a great team. How do you build a great team? I mean, you got, like you say, almost 40 people working for you. How do you manage that? Or not how do you manage it, but what tips do you have? Like, what did you learn along the way that's like, man, if I could start again from day one and build my teams out and the things I would do, like in your mind, what does that look like?
Yeah, I don't know if I would change much. I've been lucky that good people, I think I'm just a decent judge of character. That's it. I think I have a meeting with someone, I go, that'll be a good person, or that person's not a good fit. On the real estate broker side, the good team is just like giving them support, and then those people are loyal to you, and that's what it is. Like, I will do anything. I will answer my phone calls as many as I can. I'll call you back right away. A lot of them will call me like, hey, just a quick question, because they know it's like, I hate phone calls. Like, just, you can send me a text, but whatever, I answer and do it. So if you're giving people the right answers and you're helping them solve problems, you retain good people. On the team side, where we sell houses, we have even better retention rate. Like, we've had people come and go, but they just weren't the right fit. But we got Nathan, Joel, Rebecca, myself, Jen, and Dave. We've all been there 6, 7, 8 years together, right? And it's like, we like each other. Now, by the way, we do not all hang out all the time all together. That is not, we are a good cohesive family at work. And then we have quick meetings. By the way, we had a fast meeting this morning because I was coming here. And we meet on Tuesday mornings. We hash out any problems we're having. We go over what's happening in our market, our industry, our listings, and we get out, and so I don't micromanage anyone. And I think that's another thing, is like, I personally, if someone called me every day and asked me like, what'd you do today? I would be like, well, I'm quitting. Like, by the way, because like, I just don't, that's not what I did this industry for. Like, sorry, it's not. So I'm responsible to my guys. I'm not responsible for my guys. That's what I always tell them. It's like, you ask me a question, I'll take responsibility and I'll take it. But I'm not responsible for you. I'm not going to babysit you. It's not a daycare. If you don't want to sell houses, I don't give a crap. That's your money and your family's decisions, right? And the core people we have, and then we have 2 newer people, Mike and Andrew. They're kind of their first full year and a half in. They're crushing it. They're selling more. I'm telling you, those 2 are selling more deals than probably 350 of the other realtors in town. And they're brand new. Well, why are they doing that? Well, because they have good systems behind them. They have good people. When they call, like, and by the way, they're not going to know everything in a week or two, right? But if you go with my route, 20 deals, or 8 deals, 20 deals, and 50, well, I did 78 deals, right? where those two are already at 90 deals and they're a year in.
Wow.
So educationally, they're way ahead of where I even was, because they're like, oh yeah, I seen that one. Oh, I know how foreclosures work. Oh yeah, you know, this suite at home is this, this, and this, and here's how utilities. Because when you just deal in volume, you get better real quick.
Oh yeah.
And so
you have the team. And the
you have people that
now,
you call and be like, oh my god, I don't know what a chattel is. And you're like, really? Like, okay, let's work on this. And so that's like having the knowledge base or someone that'll find out the answers, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the business owner is. If you're the leader, I think it's just giving yourself as much knowledge as you can. And that's why you see a lot of gray-bearded gray-bearded owners of businesses out there, because they're like, they've seen it all.
Yeah.
And they garner that respect because it's like, you have a question for them. They did that 20 years.
Those are battle grays.
Yeah, those are from 4 children, these ones here. But yeah, like it's just guys that know the industry and will give you a truthful response.
Yes.
They're not being shady. And that's what I really noticed in Lethbridge too. You've seen them. There's been shady companies come and go, and you're like, glad they're out of our Lethbridge community. And then there's good companies, and they're just like, been in Lethbridge since 1920, and you're like, great, that's what I want. Like, I like that when you see family owned and operated for 40 years in Lethbridge. There's a reason, and I think it's just that. It's just being humble, not trying to pretend you're a celebrity, and just answering the questions and being a good person at the end of the day.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's all you can do, and golf.
Yeah, well. Yeah, that
You have to golf.
I still want to join your league. Or
whatever
the heck it is that you do with your group.
Yeah. It's a Friday. It's a fun league. I won our very first Friday. Yeah. I'm at the top of the money list for the first week. It might go downhill from there, but at the beginning we won. We played really well this week. So yeah. But,
Awesome, Justin. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. Good chat.
Sweet.